In the midst of the regime's unremitting attack against the Gaza Strip, the military arm of the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas claims to have murdered scores of Israeli troops in their camp at a deployment site east of Jor al-Dik. Welcome everyone in today's video. We're going to tell you Olam's biggest attack on EDF since the truce ended. 60 Israeli troops ambushed the military branch of Hamas, known as the Qassam brigades, stated on Sunday that their forces killed up to 60 Israeli troops after explosive devices were detonated in their camp east of Jor al-Dik town in Gaza City South. But before we proceed further with the video, if you're new to this channel, remember to go ahead and hit the bell icon to subscribe so you won't miss the informative videos we will upload in the future. 3 anti-personnel devices were successfully deployed in a circular arrangement around the deployment center by Al-Qassam military. According to the military brigades, the landmines were detonated simultaneously at 4:30 local time, and Palestinian fighters immediately began firing at the remaining Israeli military personnel. According to accounts, after inflicting substantial casualties, all resistance fighters safely retreated to their posts. The Israeli military has acknowledged the deaths of 2 troops during today's fighting in Gaza. On Saturday, Qassam released a video from Gaza in which resistance members used 4 anti-personnel and anti-fortification shells to assault Israeli soldiers, tanks, and a JCE from close range in the Beit Hanan neighborhood of the Gaza Strip. Furthermore, Al-Qassam announced in separate releases on Friday that it fired rockets at the cities of Ashkelon, Ashdod, Sderot, and Beersheba, as well as the military post. Following the expiration of the ceasefire with Israel in the besieged Palestinian enclave, it also claimed that its fighters launched attacks on Israeli soldiers in northern Gaza, including a tank and a troop carrier. Since October 7, when it launched a genocidal war against the Gaza Strip, Israel has escalated its aggression against Palestinians throughout Gaza and the West Bank. Hundreds of captives were exchanged between Hamas and the Israeli state during a 7-day truce mediated by Egypt and Qatar. After the agreement expired on Friday, the cruel regime started its military offensive. Furthermore, the Israeli regime issued a statement on Saturday ordering the return of its negotiating team in Qatar, following a stalemate in talks to extend a truce with the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas. According to the Palestinian Civil Defense in Gaza, an estimated 300 Palestinians were killed, and hundreds more were injured on Saturday as Israeli fighter jets leveled 50 residential buildings in the Shujaia neighborhood. Earlier Israeli airstrikes on Gaza's Jabalia refugee camp killed at least 100 Palestinians. More than 15,200 people have been murdered in Gaza, with over 40,000 injured, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. Women and children make up 70% of the victims in Israeli strikes on the blockaded area. According to the National, Hamas has devised sophisticated new techniques, including a specific bombing technique, to cause maximum Israeli casualties since the 7-day truce broke on December 1. Its leaders have also ordered a tactical pivot from delaying Israeli advances to decisively holding their ground in southern Gaza. They'd also deploy complex ambushes in which drones, mortars, mines, and small weapons fire are used on Israeli troops. At the same time, however, for the first time in the battle, they utilized numerous EFPs, explosively formed projectiles, against armored vehicles, and at least 1 tank was struck. Furthermore, entire houses have been wired with explosives in what is known as an HBP. According to analysts, a decision has been made to inflict a significant number of Israeli military casualties to undercut public support for the war. The Izz ad-Din al-Qassam brigades, a well-trained military component of Hamas, appears to have been committed to major defense. Al-Qassam claimed to have detonated multiple Claymore and anti-personnel mines east of Khan Yunis in a calculated, sophisticated ambush on Tuesday. In another strike, Hamas exploded a house-borne improvised explosive device, causing a building near Israeli forces to collapse. Its fighters also observed Israeli soldiers relaxing in makeshift quarters in Gaza before loading explosives into a tunnel beneath them and detonating it beneath roughly 60 soldiers. It is unknown how many Israelis were killed in the attacks, but 82 Israeli soldiers have been killed since the operation began in Gaza. If they are fighting with the Al-Qassam brigades, they are more well-trained and well-armed, and it stands to reason that we will see more complicated ambush tactics on Israel, employing different sorts of weapon systems. Mr. Qatari added, this would involve layered effects, such as an anti-tank gadget like an EFP, immobilizing a vehicle, which would subsequently be targeted by fighters using shoulder-fired weapons. In addition, anti-personnel mines would be employed in side streets to prevent troops from advancing up to halt the armor. Once ambushes reach that much more determined and intricate stage, it means that the Israelis have to battle through every time. Mr. Crenny Evans explained, it is almost clear that Iran gave the extremists the technological know-how to manufacture EFPs, which necessitate the use of an industrial lathe and high-quality explosives. Following the 2003 invasion of Iraq, Iran supplied thousands of EFPs to militias with notable effectiveness in attacking British and American armor. Iran has a complex and advanced history of EFP development. Mr. Crenny Evans explained Mr. Qaderi concurred that Hamas received technical support from Iran, stating that parts of the EFP are plainly right from Iranian blueprints. The EFPs will raise the possibility of Israeli casualties, said Noam Ostfeld, an Israeli-born analyst at the Kulin intelligence firm. In the long run, the casualties from EFPs on Israeli soldiers will raise internal pressure to establish some sort of ceasefire. EFPs are comprised of copper that has been machined into a cone and explosives packed behind it. Detonation causes the cone's apex to collapse, releasing a slug of hot metal at speeds of more than 3,000 meters per second and 11,000 kFE. If the slug penetrates armor, it fractures inside into ridiculous volumes of spalling and shrapnel, resulting in multiple casualties, according to military analyst Sam Crenny Evans. This is a smart approach because an EFP moves so swiftly and has so much kinetic energy that it's really difficult to stop, he explained, because they can be effective from up to 50 meters away. This will be a significant challenge and a problem for Israel's armored battle vehicles. Another advantage is that an EFP can be activated by an infrared trigger rather than having to wait for a vehicle to drive over it, allowing it to be planted in residences while still achieving penetration. Another advantage of EFPs, according to Mile Kotarski of Janes, the defense intelligence firm, is their reasonable ease of fabrication. Because it moves too quickly to be intercepted by the Israeli trophy system, it can circumvent an active defensive system. It can even defeat explosive reactive armor in some circumstances, since it punches through it rather than triggering the defense. Hamas has deployed EFPs at least 6 times in the last week against targets pushing into southern Gaza and surrounding Gaza City since the ceasefire ended. It appears that Hamas has switched into a deliberate defense mode in order to attrit, weaken, and grate Israel's will to continue the ground offensive into the Gaza Strip. According to the Institute for the Study of War, the tactical ship signals that Hamas and Palestinian militias are poised to become decisively committed to defending against the Israeli ground offensive. The report concluded that the new tactics are based on lessons learned during the first month of war when Israelis were observed not using important highways when advancing. Planting EFPs is one way the Palestinians might more effectively resist this Israeli approach. With a Merkava tank hit by a bomb in Khan Yunis in southern Gaza on Tuesday, it's also very likely that Hamas used the 7-day truce to rethink its strategy and seek new ways to stop Israel's march into Gaza. Hamas had a bit more time to replenish the troops and have a bit more information of where everyone is because the IDF generally stayed in the same region during the truce. That's all for today's video. Until recently, Hamas used shoot-and-run tactics with 2 fighters armed with an assault weapon and a rocket-propelled grenade, generally accompanied by a videographer shooting a few rounds before retiring. Don't forget to like the video and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos from our channel. Thanks for watching, and see you all soon.